There comes a point in every trader's life when a very uncomfortable question shows up. Am I actually trading, or am I still gambling with a nicer vocabulary? You do not ask that question at the beginning. In the beginning, everything feels exciting. Every candle feels like a chance to change your life. Every win feels like proof you are special. Every loss feels like bad luck, or manipulation, or someone else's fault. Gambling in the markets does not always look like a slot machine. Sometimes it looks like 10 indicators on your chart. Sometimes it looks like a system you never really follow. Sometimes it looks like you staring at a position you cannot afford, telling yourself, just a little bit more. Maybe it will turn. Jesse Livermore went through all of this long before you and I ever saw a chart. He walked into bucket shops as a teenager, bet on small price moves, felt the rush of quick wins and the sting of fast losses. He made fortunes. He lost fortunes. He lived both sides of the line, gambler and trader, winner and casualty. And somewhere along that path, he realized something most people never admit. The market is not what makes you a gambler. Your behavior is. In this video, I want to walk you through 7 signs that you are finally crossing that line. 7 signals that you are done gambling and ready to trade for real. You might not see all 7 in yourself yet. That is okay. But if even a few of these are starting to show up, it means something in you is changing in a way most traders never experience. The first sign is simple, but it changes everything. You stop asking, did I win? You start asking, did I follow my plan? There was a time when every trader, including Livermore, judged themselves by the result of the last trade. If it was green, they felt smart. If it was red, they felt stupid. Their mood was chained to their P&L. That is what gamblers do. Gamblers live from outcome to outcome. They chase the next hit, the next rush, the next moment that erases all the pain of the last one. Traders, real traders, slowly move away from that. You know this shift is happening when a losing trade that followed your rules feels better than a winning trade that broke them. You start to respect yourself more for doing the right thing, even when the result is wrong in the short term. You close a trade for a planned loss and say, that was a good trade, because it fit your edge, your risk, your rules. That sentence would make no sense to a gambler, but to a trader, it is the whole point. Livermore did not always live this way, but when he was at his best, he cared far more about being aligned with the big trend and his own rules than about the outcome of any single position. When he drifted back into chasing outcomes, his life always paid for it. So if you are starting to feel more satisfaction from clean execution than from random wins, that is sign number 1. You are moving. The second sign is this. You finally accept that without written rules, you will always default back to gambling. For a long time, you may have trusted your feel, your gut, your ability to read the market in the moment. You told yourself you did not need strict rules. You were too dynamic for that. You would just adapt. But slowly, painfully, the market shows you what that really means. It means your risk changes with your mood. It means your entries depend on whether you slept well. It means your exits depend on how badly you need a win today. Gambling is not just taking wild trades. It is trading without boundaries. You know you are leaving that behind when you start doing something most traders avoid. You write things down. You define how much you risk per trade. You define what a valid setup looks like. You define when you will walk away for the day. You put it somewhere you can see. So your emotional self is forced to answer to your rational self. Livermore had rules. He spoke them, wrote them, taught them. Do not average down. Cut losses quickly. Ride the main trend. But whenever he broke his own rules, he slid right back into gambling, just with more zeros. You are different when you stop treating rules as suggestions and start treating them as the cost of staying in this game. When you hear yourself think, this does not fit my plan, so I am not taking it. Even though it looks tempting, you are not being rigid. You are being free. The third sign that you are done gambling is quiet but powerful. You size your trades so you can sleep. Most gamblers in the market do not look crazy from the outside. Their charts might look normal. Their reasoning might sound intelligent. But inside, their nervous system is screaming. They check their phone in the middle of the night. They wake up early to see if the one big position they should never have taken is still alive. Their heart rate is tied to every tick. They are not managing money anymore. Money is managing them. Real traders slowly stop living like this. It is not because they become fearless. It is because they finally respect the damage that oversized positions do to their mind. You know this shift is happening when you start reducing size, not because the setup is worse, but because you are tired of being a hostage to your own trades. You say, if this trade is so big that I cannot sleep, it is too big. I would rather grow slower and stay sane. Livermore talked about going in big when everything lined up. But he also learned that when his size was driven by desperation, not edge, it destroyed him. When you start using position sizing as a tool to protect your mental health, not as a way to chase the maximum gain, you are stepping firmly into the trader's mindset. The fourth sign is one most gamblers never reach. You can sit out, and it does not feel like failure. Gambling thrives on constant action. The gambler feels useless when they are not in a position. Silence feels wrong. Boredom feels painful. They need a trade, like a smoker needs a cigarette. So they force it. They pick the second best setup, then the third best, then anything that moves. They trade the noise, not the signal. You start leaving that behind when you realize something strange. Some of your most profitable days are the days you do nothing. The market opens. You look at your watch list. You check your levels. Nothing is clean. Nothing lines up. Old you would jump in anyway, just to feel involved. But new you does something radical. You do nothing. You watch. You observe. You journal. You go for a walk. And when the day ends, you feel calm. Not because you made money, but because you didn't donate any. Livermore made his biggest money not by always being active, but by waiting for the big swing and then sitting tight. He used to say, "It was never my thinking that made the big money. It was always my sitting." Gamblers cannot sit. Traders can. If you are starting to experience days where you are flat and still feel like you did your job, that is sign number 4. The fifth sign is not glamorous, but it might be the most important. You stop trying to get it back right away. Revenge trading is pure gambling in a suit. You take a loss, and instead of letting it be one line in your story, you turn it into a mission. You tell yourself, I will get that back today. You start forcing trades that would never have passed your filter an hour earlier. You are not trading the market anymore. You are trading your frustration. Real traders still feel all of that. The anger, the embarrassment, the sting. The difference is not that they are calm robots. The difference is what they do after the sting. You know you are changing when, after a painful loss, your first thought is not, where can I make this back? But, what needs to stop for today? Sometimes the most professional move is to close the platform, stand up, and let the emotional wave pass without giving it access to your capital. Livermore did not always do this. There were days when he chased, doubled, forced, and paid the price. But the times he regained control and walked away, he was not being weak. He was protecting his edge from the worst version of himself. If you ever find yourself shutting it down after a big hit, not because you cannot find another trade, but because you refuse to trade in that state, you are not gambling anymore. You are leading. The sixth sign is a mental shift that is hard to describe, but once it happens, you never see the market the same way again. You stop needing to be right. You start needing to be consistent. Gamblers are obsessed with being right. They brag about calling tops and bottoms. They secretly hope for home runs that make them look like geniuses. Traders think in probabilities. They know that if their edge is real, it will not show up in 1 or 2 trades. It will show up over dozens, even hundreds. So they stop caring so much about whether this specific trade wins. They care about whether it was a good bet in a long series. You know this shift is happening when you can take a loss and say calmly, "That was still a good trade for me to take." You are not making excuses. You are recognizing that a losing bet can still be the right bet if it fit your criteria and your stats. You also start seeing something else. A random win that broke all your rules makes you nervous, not proud. You know that if you keep getting rewarded for bad behavior, it will eventually destroy you. Livermore's career was a war between his desire to be right and his understanding of probability. When he surrendered to the math, he thrived. When he chased the need to be right, he suffered. If you find yourself thinking, "I do not need to nail the exact high, I just need to execute my edge over and over," you are walking the same path. Serious traders walk. And that brings us to the seventh sign. You stop asking trading to give you an identity. Gambling in the markets is not just about how you press the buttons. It is about what you are trying to prove every time you sit down. If, deep down, you are trying to prove that you are smart, special, superior, or destined, you will always take trades you should not take. You will risk too much. You will stay too long. You will refuse to step aside, because stepping aside feels like admitting you are ordinary. Real traders do not think they are ordinary, but they stop needing the market to tell them who they are. You know you are getting there when a losing week does not make you question your worth as a person, when a winning month does not make you feel like a god, when your family cannot tell, from your face at dinner, whether you had a green day or a red one. Livermore's greatest weakness was not his method. It was how much of his identity he hung on his results. When he was up, he was the king of Wall Street. When he was down, everything in his life shook with it. If you are building a life where trading is something you do, not the only thing you are, then you can finally trade without that heavy, desperate need for every outcome to validate you. That is when gambling begins to lose its grip. So let us put this together. How do you know you are finally done gambling and ready to trade for real? You measure success by following your plan, not by random wins. You write your rules, and you actually follow them. You size your trades so you can sleep at night. You can sit out and still feel like a professional. You refuse to seek revenge on the market after a loss. You think in probabilities and series, not in single miracles. And you stop asking the market to define who you are. You will not wake up one morning and magically have all seven. There is no bright line where a voice announces, "Congratulations, you are a real trader now." It happens quietly. One day you cut a loss exactly where you said you would. One day you walk away after hitting your daily limit, even though you wanted to keep going. One day you skip a setup that looks exciting, because you know it is not yours. One day you have a red week and still feel strangely steady inside, and you realize something. You are still in the same market. You still feel fear, greed, hope, and doubt. But you are no longer playing the same game. You are no longer betting your future on one trade, one day, one swing. You are building a body of work, a track record, an identity that is rooted in discipline, not luck. That is the road Jesse Livermore never fully mastered, but clearly pointed toward. His life is a warning and a guide at the same time. A reminder that you can be brilliant and still blow up if you keep gambling. And a reminder that the only way to honor these lessons is to live them. So let me ask you this. Which of these 7 signs do you see in yourself right now? Which one is missing that you know you need to grow into next? Be honest with yourself. Maybe even write it down. Because the moment you stop pretending, the moment you say, "I have been gambling, but I do not want to stay there," that is the moment you place your first real trade, not in the market, in your own mind. The trade where you finally risk your old identity, so you can become the trader you were supposed to be all along.